realized that my computer is too old to allow for that. But as you know, F1 Hire is now Frog Hire. There is a philosophy behind the name change. We talked about it last time in our presentation. I'm not going to go over it today, but it's the same thing. We're doing the same wonderful things. We just have a much cuter logo, in my opinion, thanks to Minna and her team. Okay, so today we're going to talk about unpaid internships. And I think the one thing before I start my slides, the one thing that I really need you to think about is what your resume looks like. Having worked in HR and reviewed many, many F1 hire resumes, what has been missing for international students has been real sort of work experience, internship experience. A lot of resumes are full and they look very full, but they're mostly filled with projects that students have done, international students have done in classes versus actual hands-on work. Yes, a case study that you do in a class for a client could be considered work-ish, but you are not in a work environment. You remain in a classroom environment. Internships, paid internships are hard to come by. As an international student, your opportunities might be limited by your visa status. And so that's why we wanted to bring to you the idea of unpaid internships and what you need to know to protect yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. Oh, okay, and then let me go to the slideshow. Slideshow. Remember, if you have questions, feel free to type them into the box, or you can ask them during Q&A. So again, welcome to Frog Hire. The things that we're going to talk about today, I'll give you my brief intro. We'll talk about the legal considerations. I really want you to be able to protect yourself. The pros and the cons of unpaid internships, how you want to evaluate your unpaid internship offer, what you need to look for to make sure it's the right experience for you. Things that you need to be proactive about if you take that unpaid internships, and alternatives. Obviously, you're like, hey, alternatives is a paid internship. Yes, but we'll talk about that just a little bit before we close. Okay, unpaid internships are experiences where you basically work. You perform tasks and duties for a company or an organization, but you don't get paid. Unfortunately, no money. But why is it important? Like I said before, classroom experience is different from being in a work environment. So here you are getting hands-on experience, you are getting professional development, talking to people who are more seasoned, more experienced than you, and you gain specific insight into an industry or a career field. So you can be a computer science student, but if you're in the workplace, you can look at niche areas based on what you're doing and really understand the different career paths that you can take because there are very many in computer science. Um, in an unpaid internship, because you get no money, the offer, what you're doing should give you educational benefits. So what you need to be getting out of there legally is you're getting a learning experience. As part of that learning experience, then you are applying what you've learned in the classroom, your theory, the things that you've studied, into a real world setting, seeing how to think quickly on your feet to solve problems that happen, not just hypothetical problems in your textbook, and gain industry experience. Industry experience is important even if you're applying for an entry-level job. Many domestic students, because they don't have the legal visa issues, go into their first work experience with prior work experience in some field or other. Okay. Common industries that offer unpaid internships include nonprofit organizations, the arts, media, politics, and research. However, more and more companies, for-profit companies, are taking advantage of unpaid internships. There are actually very structured unpaid internships that specifically may create cohorts or offer specific learning opportunities in lieu of compensation, in lieu of money. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting over a little cold, so trying not to sniffle too much. So, legal considerations. This is, I want you to protect yourself. We want you to be aware of what you, when you're being taken advantage of. If you are, you may never be taken advantage of as an unpaid intern, and that's wonderful. But being aware is important. So, an unpaid internship still must comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, from the Department of Labor. And basically, because you're not getting paid and an unpaid internship, there is a test in quotes that they apply, which is the primary beneficiary. So it means you must be the one getting the most out of this relationship with the employer who is not paying you. So you must be getting educational training. They must think about your academic commitments, and it's linked to educational requirements. So they can't be, you can't take an unpaid internship and all they have you doing is getting coffee for them every day, unless you are your degree is training you to be a barista and work at Starbucks. Odds are that's not happening. So, if that were the case, if you took an unpaid internship, you are a computer science major, and you are just getting coffee all day, they have violated the FLSA. Depending on what state you are in, or even what city, because some cities have much more local laws. Um, you may be required to receive college credit, or it must be connected to a formal education program like CPT. So be aware of that. You can do some poking around online to figure out unpaid internships in the state of Virginia. What are the requirements? So you can look that up. It varies from state to state, it varies from city to city potentially. So, just a reiteration of the primary beneficiary. You, as the unpaid intern, must be the primary beneficiary. I've got a Department of Labor link there for you that you can also go to, because you are protected as an unpaid intern, even if you don't get money. Um, you want to make sure the employer is complying so you get the experience. Sure, they what their own keep in mind that what they are promising you is an educational experience. If they say, oh, if you do 100% well, we are definitely going to offer you a job, that's a no-no. They should not be paying you any money, and you should not be given any gifts in any way. So, for example, if the employer has offers free gym memberships, you cannot accept that as an unpaid intern. You're an unpaid intern. Um, they can say things like, "Oh, yeah, this experience, we'll have a better idea of if you could potentially work with us full time." They could say that, but they cannot promise you that. So be aware of the language that they use, because if they promise you that, that's not legally binding. And if they're just saying that to be duplicitous, you're kind of stuck. You could have taken another opportunity potentially. So, pros and cons. Like I said before, a lot of international students go in, have a nice resume, but they're not filled with experience in the real world. They're only filled with experience in the classroom. So, definitely a, a huge pro is if you can't get a paid job, this is still a job outside of school, and it allows you to gain real world experience that you can then put onto your resume. It's hands-on experience. You're doing something in the field, you're learning from the people around you, you're seeing what projects are trending, you're getting a sense of what's out there once you leave school. You also start to build your professional network. A lot of jobs are acquired through the network you create, not through just randomly applying on Indeed. It is, okay, this is someone that I worked with in the past. They've pointed me out to a job at their particular company. It's posted on Indeed and I can apply there. But they will also put in a word for me at Human Resources, or they will also support my application. So, networking is an important way in the United States to find your job. So you cannot rely on sending 300 resumes out cold on Indeed alone. You want to be able to network. And so internships give you relationships, introduce you to relationships at a workplace. And oftentimes, if the workplace opportunity has collaborations or with other companies or with other colleagues in different areas, you are increasing your networking space. Like I said before, internships, unpaid or paid, enhance your resume. They make you more competitive than the others who have not worked at all in the real world. And it also allows you to explore career paths. You may get an unpaid internship in one area of computer science and you go into it excited thinking this is what you want to do and you wind up hating it. It helped you understand, like in the real world setting, I don't like computer science in this way, but let me see about how do I can apply it in the field of medicine versus the field of education. There is a potential for a future paid opportunities. You're proving your value. If you do a great job, they may think about you positively should a job open up and you apply to it later. You will also be able to reference, I was an unpaid internship for John Smith at your company. And if John Smith liked you, he could put in a word for you. But again, you're not entitled to this. No one can promise you this as an unpaid intern. The cons largely is financial strain. It's the most obvious downside is you're not getting paid. And if you are going to take an unpaid internship in Los Angeles, California, that is a potential lot of money if that's not your home base, if your parents don't live there, if you don't already have a space there. So that's a lot of financial strain. Whereas taking an unpaid internship at a great company in, say, rural Idaho might not be as much of a financial strain because the standard of living is cheaper. So you want to think about that. Like, can you afford to take that unpaid internship? If it's your only option to get work experience, you really need to think about how to make that work. There is a potential for exploitation that unpaid interns are taken advantage of. They're doing stuff that really is not educational for them. That so then they are not the primary beneficiary. This is why we have this particular workshop for you. So you know that you taking an unpaid internship should be getting an experience that is related to your educational pursuits. Unpaid interns pretty much don't have same legal protections as paid employees. For example, workers' compensation. So if you got hurt on the job and you are paid, they are also employers are required to carry insurance to take care of you if you were injured and had to be away from work. Similarly, if you were laid off or they would have to pay into unemployment benefits. Unpaid interns don't have such privileges. So be aware of that. Similarly, you could be terminated at any point in time. Less of a concern for you financially because you weren't getting paid anyways, but you're not really protected. They don't need to explain to you. And suddenly you've paid for a 3-month lease in LA and a month in, you don't need to be in LA anymore. So you're stuck for that. So just be aware of that. Uh, and for some people, opportunity cost is something that is very important. Not earning money could be very significant. So, staying in the US to take an unpaid internship, if the visa allows, yes, you get experience, but you're not making money and then you're losing money. And then comparing that to, okay, maybe going back to my home country for the summer, working somewhere there for pay. So you need to think about that. Does the value of how important is the money and how important is the experience in the United States? So congratulations, you've gotten your unpaid internship offer. So you're really excited. And you want to think of you've gotten that letter, you've interviewed, so you kind of know who you're going to work with. So now you're deciding, should I take this? Because yes, I'm still applying to some other things. I might hear back from them. So first of all, think about your timeline. Has summer already started? Is it already like 3 weeks into summer and you only have like a month and a half left? And while you are waiting for some other potentially paid uh, um, opportunities to call you back, you haven't really heard yet. So you need to figure out like, okay, can I really afford to take this unpaid internship and work for a month and a half, or should I just wait it out? And how you do that. And so timing is important. And you want to look closely then at the unpaid internship offer. Are you going to be getting many opportunities to learn, to be around people who will teach you and apply the skills you've learned in the classroom? Like, what will you gain from this? What projects might you be working on? And will it align with your career goals or allow you to explore an area that you have never thought about exploring? So, for example, if you are um, a graphic designer and you're offered an unpaid internship with a tech startup, is that something that you've ever considered? If not, potentially, tech startups potentially could lead to a lot of money. You don't know. So maybe this is something you want to explore and is worth exploring to see if you want to keep it as a career goal or not as a career goal. So you want to research the organization's reputation, look at Glassdoor, LinkedIn, talk to former interns. It'll give you a sense of, okay, do the interns walk away feeling smarter, feeling like they've had a really good work experience? The one thing I will caution you on is a lot of negative reviews tend to be from people who are truly unhappy or something bad happened there, which may or may not be the company's fault. So read everything with a grain of salt. Just, to get a global picture. Don't just rely on one or two reviews of an organization. You want to clarify the structure and support. Because you are an intern, you're not very high up in the hierarchy. You are still learning. So you should have someone who is not necessarily going to hold your hand, but be teaching you or guiding you or supervising you. So think about that. So ask who you are going to be reporting to, what projects they might have you working on, and who you'll be working with. Like, who is your team? Are there other interns that you will be working with? Think about the networking and the career development potential. Think about how likely it is you can connect with professionals in your field. If you are an unpaid intern at a two-person company, you might not be meeting a lot of people in your field. However, if these two people in the company will take you to conferences with them because you're the only unpaid person, and they want you to help them with conference management and meeting other colleagues and presenting and doing sales stuff, then great. You're attending industry events. So it may be something that is worth your while and worth your time because you can network there. Um, and then, as before, the financial and practical implications. Can you realistically afford to take on an unpaid position? All right. Some people can, some people cannot. So you need to really think about that. To make the most of your unpaid internship, you want to be proactive, engaged, and strategic. So think about goals. So you've gotten this offer. What do you want to achieve? So if you are in a programming job and you've only learned Java in school and you want to become better at it, set a specific goal. By the end of this internship, I want to be able to program this using Java in this amount of time to do this. So set specific goals. And this is why in the last slide I told you, make sure you understand who your support system is, because these are the people who will help you achieve these goals. You should always ask for challenging projects, volunteer for tasks, show a willingness to learn skills. This is regardless of unpaid or paid internship or job. Even in my work right now, I'm constantly reaching out to different teams, offering my support, offering help, because I want to be helpful. I want to learn. I want to grow my experiences. But because you're an unpaid internship, it is particularly important for you to make a good impression, but also expand your resume. Right. Make sure you're networking and building relationships, connect with professionals in the industry. If there's someone who is at your company who you may not work directly with, but you are really interested in how they got where they are, invite them out for coffee. Get to know them, to do what we call an informational interview, to ask them questions. You're not looking for a job, but you're trying to understand their path, what they did, what regrets they have about their job search, so that you can better learn from their experiences. You should always ask for feedback so you can so you can understand what you are strong in, but also what you need to work on. They will help you figure out what skills you need to fine tune. For example, something as small as giving a good handshake. That's feedback that a lot of us could use, but don't realize we need to have. Okay. You want to highlight any accomplishments you make, document your achievements, what you've learned. Um, and I always suggest that you have a Google Doc with a working resume. So every time in your internship, you've implemented something new. So today you worked on C++, yesterday you worked on Java. Put those into and onto your resume so that when you apply for a job next time, you don't have to think back, oh, at that internship that I did last year, what did I do? This will allow you to keep it running, to keep it updated. And when you have like the perfect job that you want to apply to, your resume is pretty much already done for that job. Okay. Alternatives. So this is our final slide. Obviously, like I said, the alternative is to look for a paid internship. You get the added benefit of financial compensation, but also keep in mind for the paid internship, they could ask you to get coffee for them all day. But hopefully you have other responsibilities in addition to fetching coffee. You can also take on a part-time job or freelance. Um, so maybe you take an unpaid internship, but you do some freelancing on the side to also supplement to help pay your LA rent. Um, some people would prefer to volunteer in a different capacity versus I mean, it's sort of the same as internship, but the internship requires an educational experience. Volunteering may not necessarily. You're sort of, oftentimes we think of volunteering as being more philanthropic in nature. Um, some schools offer co-op education programs, which are built into the degree program, where you actually earn academic credit and have a paid full-time job. So some schools have that. If your school doesn't, it's unlikely that they're going to offer it. But more and more schools are gravitating towards offering such pre-professional opportunities. And if you don't want to do an unpaid internship, but you want to advance your skills, you can always enroll in online courses or certification programs that can help you apply more of your skills. Not as great as the unpaid internship because they are not applying your skills necessarily in the work world, but better than sitting around and doing nothing, because you're sort of building up your resume as well in a different way. All right. Okay, so that's all I have regarding unpaid internships. What I want you to keep in mind is to protect yourself. Remember that if you take one, you are the primary beneficiary. Really, the main downside to taking one is the lack of financial compensation. But if you have no other options and you need career work experience, you want to see how you might potentially make it work for you. Sorry if I talked a little fast today. But we're not that we're not that far off. So welcome if you came in late and we didn't say hi to you. But if you have any questions, I will poke into the chat
Yes,
and
we
see.
do have some questions. Let's see.
Okay. What about these? I don't know what that means. Forage virtual work
Virtual
experience.
work.
I don't know what forage means. Virtual work experiences potentially are worthy to put on a resume. It depends on what you do. So, if it's a virtual work experience related to the job you're applying to, yes. If there are transferable skills that you can highlight, yes. If it's a virtual work experience that you basically shadowed and it was like 3 days, I probably wouldn't put it on there because it was only 3 days and it would be embarrassing if you were asked how long were you at this position. Okay. Is CPT mandatory for F1 students to work on unpaid internships? No, it is not. So you can make that decision though with your DSO at your school. Uh, Unfortunately, I don't have off the top of my head names of companies who take freelancers. I do encourage you to download the Frog Hire app to help you look at opportunities. Minna, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I actually replied to that.
Oh, okay.
I listed five of those.
Oh, there you go.
Ask ChatGPT, but I knew the
Ah,
first and second one, and actually third one. And the first one we did hire a freelancer from Upwork, so that's the most popular one, I would say. And then freelancer.com, that's also a pretty big one. So those would be some resources I can share. Yeah.
and but just be aware of your work status because freelancers often are
Yeah,
hired as independent contractors, also called 1099s. And depending on your work status, you may not be able to be a 1099 independent contractor. So the legal
exactly.
language there is unclear. So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, folks?
Uh,
Current. Go
well,
ahead.
I
Yeah.
have, sorry, I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
So basically, I have come across a website which is for it where they kind of provide job simulations. I was like wondering whether to put those things on my resume or not.
So job simulations. Um,
Yes.
I actually have never seen that on a resume before.
Hmm.
So I honestly don't have a very good answer for you. If you are in school right now, I actually suggest you go to your career development office and ask them that question. Um, I probably would not because it's a simulation and it's not the real work experience, but a career office person would have a better reply to you.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a question here. I'm currently on OPT and considering an offer for my STEM OPT extension. Most of the companies seem not to be interested in F1 STEM OPT. What do you? So, um, there is no real suggestion I can give you. If you want to stay in the United States, you're just going to have to continue to job search for those non domestic worker friendly companies. You do have the extension. If an employer is in the e-verify system, that means they have been open and friendly in the past to international workers. Whether or not they will sponsor your H-1B is a question that I can't answer. That's individual companies. But what you want to do to make your job search easier is to use the Frog Hire extension, which will filter out the companies that say we don't offer any sort of work, we don't offer any sort of non-domestic worker opportunities. That will filter out those who have no history or have said specifically they're not going to work with OPT, CPT, or H-1B. That will at least save you some time so that you only see across the 5 job boards the ones that have a history of being non-domestic worker friendly. I understand it is rough, and that is why our CEO came up with the idea of Frog Hires because he himself struggled and he works with students, international students, and he realized, hey, international students need some support because there's a lot of talent in this group. Okay, good luck. All right. So, just before we go, then, the one thing I encourage you to do is if you have a resume and you think it's wonderful, but no one's looked at it, or you've never attended a workshop, or you just sort of took a template offline, I really encourage you to either have it reviewed or have it professionally reviewed or have it reviewed by your career services office, or watch one of our recorded resume crafting um, videos only because it's very very easy to think, oh, my resume is perfect, when in fact it could use more work. I work right now, part of my job, like 30% is human resources, and the number of resumes that could use improvement is upwards of 80% from what I see. So it can always be tighter, it can always be better, and having someone else look at it is very important. All right? Make sure that you have someone check it for you.
Yeah, we have 2 more questions.
Oh, how is the job market right now? Do you encourage students to migrate to the US right now? Um, I can't answer that question because honestly, the administration right now has been changing, has the current administration from day to day changes their mind about things. So I could say something now and in 2 hours I could be 100% wrong. Um, uh, I do know that I think last week unemployment was up, but again, that's unemployment overall. It is not specialized fields, so it depends on your field. If you're looking at a specific field, unemployment may not be up in your particular field and may be down. So it's very difficult to say. I don't have any comment on what the H-1B work visa F1 student acceptance plans are going to be for this administration, honestly, because it changes from day to day right now. So you need to make the best decision for yourself based on your situation, your family situation, your own financial needs. Okay. All right. I think
This
so.
universe.
Does university ranking matter in the US? Well, university ranking, it depends. University ranking to some people matters a lot. For example, if you have an Ivy League degree, it could open up more doors for you to get more internships. However, there are schools that are a little more obscure, like Central Michigan, right, Minna? Where
Yeah.
in specific majors, their graduates have a very high rate of being hired into positions which have a path to the green card. So you need to make that decision. Some cultures, university ranking is super important. Some cultures, getting a job is much more important. University rankings matter in some fields, but also I read an article 6 months ago, I think it was in Forbes magazine, which said in Forbes that some human resources people are not interested in those elite university students. They're more interested in students from a different tier because they seem more down to earth, for lack of a better excellent phrase. Okay. What about what about for international students? Do I have to fight for only a top university? Well, the question is, first of all, are you competitive for a top university? If you're not, there's nothing you can do to get in there, okay? But when I mentioned Central Michigan, I actually was referring to also international students in their support. There are institutions, and we had that data, right, Minna, on Frog Hire?
Yeah.
We
Right.
have that data on which majors at which universities have been highly employed after graduation, and we look at international students in particular. So poke around on Frog Hire, that data is there, and that's, we're trying to do that for you guys. All right. Okay, folks. Well, happy Thursday. I hope you have wonderful plans for the weekend to go out or to recover. I know Min and I are going to take a break and breathe. But hope you will join us again. We have one more coming up in a couple weeks. And good luck with your job search. We are rooting for all of you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.